This is absolutely the most realistic outdoor survival show I've ever seen. 10 contestants have been dropped in Patagonia for the $500 grand prize. They each show off their unique skills, but the cruelty of the wilderness also makes some want to back down. If it were you, how long do you think you could last? We're now on day 8, and 8 contestants remain. The 9th contestant we meet is Dan. At 34, he's a total wilderness greenhorn. He even bluntly states he's the laziest survivalist in history. In his opinion, those master craftsmen obsessed with building wilderness mansions are just here to waste time. He believes real survival means the first priority is finding food by any means necessary. You have to say, he's really not afraid of getting flamed. His 10 items for this challenge are an axe, a saw, a knife, a sleeping bag, a hammock, paracord, a ferro rod, fish hooks, fishing line, a pot, and emergency rations. Dan, from Pennsylvania, is a full-time bushcraft hunter, specializing in setting traps. His room is filled with trophies from his hunts. He's also passionate about outdoor survival, and his skills have reached a masterful level. His sole purpose for competing is to earn enough milk money for his young son. Ironically, however, this guy hasn't eaten a single proper meal since he landed. He's been relying entirely on his emergency rations to feel full. Due to a lack of energy, even the normally easy task of chopping wood has become incredibly difficult. Every swing of the axe makes his arms ache, and sweat pours down his face. It makes me, the narrator, wonder, is this guy just all talk and no action? Meanwhile, Greg is still fixated on the animal call he heard the day before. He's convinced it was a wild boar. If he could successfully capture it, his food problems would be over. But tracking it blindly would waste a lot of energy. So he decides to build a trap. He grabs his tools and heads into the jungle. However, the Patagonian environment is far beyond his imagination. The dense undergrowth makes every step difficult. After trekking for over an hour, Greg not only finds no sign of the boar, but even worse, he's completely lost. This is not good news. To come in with such high hopes only to end up like this, he instantly panics. The final contestant to be introduced is Carrie. Don't be fooled by her small stature. By day 5, she had already built the basic frame of her shelter. Now, all that's left is to finish the roof. Carrie's 10 items for the competition are paracord, a saw, a sleeping bag, a pot, a ferro rod, a water bottle, fish hooks and line, and a bow and arrow. At only 28, Carrie is from Alaska and has worked in the construction industry for many years. She's been learning wilderness survival skills since she was a child, specializing in shelter building and weaving various necessities. Climbing trees is also a piece of cake for her. She once hiked 800 kilometers, about 500 miles, solo across Washington state. She has the full support of her boyfriend for this competition, and her goal is to win the $500 grand prize to use as their wedding fund. To save time, she first builds 2 A-frames. Then, she finds a straight log nearby and places it across the frames as a ridgepole. Once everything is in place, she hangs from the ridgepole, using her own weight to test the frame's stability. It turns out to be very sturdy. Next, she gathers sticks and lays them neatly along the ridgepole, and then covers the top with branches and leaves collected from the area. According to her, this will greatly improve the shelter's insulation. From the outside, Carrie's shelter could absolutely be called the most luxurious home on the show. However, just as she was arranging the interior, fate played a cruel joke. With a loud crash, the entire roof suddenly collapsed. Sticks and leaves were scattered all over the ground, watching her hard work from the past several days go down the drain. Carrie was overwhelmed with mixed emotions. She had no choice but to go to the lake to try and calm down. But as the cold wind whipped her face, Carrie couldn't hold it in any longer. All the frustration and despair welled up, and tears streamed down her cheeks. However, she knew she absolutely could not give up easily. After readjusting her emotions, she threw herself back into the work of completing her shelter. The competition moves to day 9. Ever since catching 2 fish on day 2, Carrie has come up empty for several days straight. She has no choice but to drink plain water, trying to trick her taste buds. After filling up on water, she gets back to work on her shelter. Carrie had also built her main frame on day 5, and now just needed to get the walls up. We see her first firmly attach bamboo stalks to the frame, then weave leafy bamboo branches layer by layer into the gaps. Before long, a mansion that is both practical and secure begins to take shape. Looking at the house she worked so hard to build, Carrie couldn't be happier. On the other side, Britt is also immersed in joy, even starting to dance wildly for the camera. It seems he truly enjoys this outdoor life. Full of anticipation, he goes to the lake to check the fishing lines he set up earlier. To his surprise, he's caught a trout. With no time to show off, he cleans the fish right there, using its guts as bait to set up several more fishing lines nearby. Sure enough, opportunity always favors the prepared. About an hour later, there's a tug on the line. Britt pulls it up, another trout, then a second, and a third big fish get hooked one after another. He never expected to have such a big harvest in a single afternoon. His luck is just off the charts. He skillfully cleans the fish, setting one aside for tonight's dinner and saving the rest for tomorrow. At this moment, Britt has clearly become the wealthiest contestant on the show. Night falls quickly, while Britt is reveling in his abundant harvest, sitting in her camp. Megan clearly hears a noise coming from outside. She instantly tenses up, not daring to make a sound, thinking, could that be a mountain lion? You have to know, this is the most active time for mountain lions. A direct encounter would have unimaginable consequences. As the sound gets closer, Megan can no longer suppress her fear. Mustering her courage, she yells loudly in the direction of the sound, trying to scare off the uninvited guest. Perhaps her shouting worked. After a moment, the heart-pounding sound gradually faded into the distance. Only then does Megan let out a long sigh of relief, her tense nerves slowly relaxing. However, after she calms down and analyzes the situation, she deduces it was likely a male wild boar in heat. While not as threatening as a mountain lion, they are still extremely aggressive. If she could successfully capture it, she would completely achieve protein freedom. But for now, she just hopes the boar doesn't return tonight. And just like that, Megan survives a terrifying night. The next morning, as she patrols the area around her camp, she finds large amounts of wild boar droppings on the ground, less than 10 meters away from her camp. This immediately makes her feel this is not a safe place to live. She must take protective measures to stop the boar from entering her camp. She gets right to work. Megan drags many thick branches and logs from nearby and builds a dense protective wall surrounding her camp. After finishing all this, she finally relaxes a little. It seems she can finally get a peaceful night's sleep tonight. As night falls, Lady Luck once again smiles upon Britt. When he checks his fishing lines in the middle of the night, he pulls in another trout weighing 2 or 3 pounds. But he hasn't even finished the fish he caught yesterday. So, he decides to store the leftover fish. He digs a hole in a small stream near his camp, then blocks the hole's exit with rocks to prevent the current from washing the fish away. He places both cleaned fish into the hole, covers them with a few crossed bamboo stalks, and finally weighs it all down with a large rock. A simple but practical storage room is complete. According to him, in this low temperature, the fish meat can be stored for at least 3 to 5 days. Looking at his proud creation, Britt can't help but sing a song to the night sky. On day 11, Carrie's wilderness mansion is finally nearing completion. But with winter fast approaching, she decides to add a fireplace to her shelter to ensure she has a comfortable, warm environment. This will allow her to both cook and stay warm. She goes to the riverbank to select suitable large stones and, after exerting tremendous effort, hauls them all back to camp. She first arranges the stones neatly in a circle, then uses bamboo to fill the gaps on either side of the fireplace to ensure the shelter is sealed. Finally, she leaves a space in the middle for firewood. After working hard for over 2 hours, Carrie sits exhaustedly on the ground, looking at the fireplace she carefully built. A satisfied smile appears on her face. Now that the shelter is complete, the next step is to focus all her energy on finding protein. Meanwhile, as others are celebrating their successes, Fuller finds himself in trouble. His campsite is located in a shaded area, surrounded by towering trees. As a result, his shelter is constantly shrouded in shadow, never getting any sunlight. This not only makes his camp extremely damp and cold, but more importantly, it's affecting his mood. Feelings of depression and frustration are quietly growing inside him. However, as the weather gets colder, Fuller knows that the most urgent task is to get the construction of his permanent shelter underway. To ensure safety when traveling to and from his camp, he collects a large amount of bamboo and builds a railing along the slope next to his camp. Then, using his e-tool, folding shovel, he clears the leaves and debris from the ground, carving out a flat, country path. It seems he deeply understands the principle: to get rich, you must first build a road. Now that the road is built, whether he can get rich will depend on what happens next. By day 12, Dan is still surviving on water. The prolonged hunger makes him daydream about all kinds of food from home. He really can't stand it anymore. He goes to the spot where he set his fishing line. Sure enough, heaven rewards the diligent. He clearly sees a big fish on his hook from the shore. Unfortunately, the line is tangled in dead branches in the water, and he can't pull it in. Although Dan tries using a bamboo pole to free the line, it has no effect. Seeing the fish so close yet untouchable, a look of determination flashes in his eyes. Without hesitation, he strips off his clothes. Keep in mind, the water temperature is only 12 degrees, 53 degrees Fahrenheit. But Dan ignores the icy water and jumps right in. The bone-chilling cold instantly envelops him. But he doesn't flinch. He takes a deep breath, dives under, and swims toward the hook. When he surfaces, he is holding a 2-pound trout. He quickly gets dressed, cleans the fish on the shore, and returns to camp overjoyed. He immediately starts a fire and begins cooking his first fish since landing. Before long, a delicious fish feast is ready. He eagerly begins to feast on this wilderness delicacy. As the protein enters his body, it also ignites Dan's confidence to carry on. At the same time, Carrie is finally celebrating her move-in day. She excitedly performs a little dance for the camera. After her warm-up, she starts introducing the various furniture inside her home. It's a case of a sparrow may be small, but it has all the vital organs. Inside, there's not only a homemade clothes rack but also a luxurious and comfortable single bed. And even a dining table. Although it looks a bit basic, at least she won't have to sit on the ground to eat anymore. After packing up all her gear, Carrie excitedly moves into her new house. The moment she lights the fireplace, a warm glow instantly illuminates the entire shelter. Who would have thought that the first person on the show to move into a mansion would be a woman? This makes me, the narrator, admire Carrie's building skills and her speed. It looks like she is dead set on taking home that $500 grand prize. The challenge reaches day 13. The outside temperature has dropped to 8 degrees, 46 degrees Fahrenheit. Fuller is still in dire straits. The chronic hunger is making him miserable. With an anxious heart, he goes to the shore to check his fishing lines. But as he looks at the mountain on the far side of the lake, illuminated by the sun, he suddenly realizes he hasn't felt the caress of the sun even once since he landed. At this thought, this grown man can no longer hold it together. All the long-held depression, loneliness, and frustration erupt in this one moment. Tears instantly well up in his eyes. However, he quickly composes himself and returns to camp. After his mood stabilizes, he decides to climb the peak behind him. He is determined to go and feel a sunbathe. In truth, what Fuller was seeking wasn't just the warmth of the sun, but a kind of solace for his soul. After a long trek, he finally reaches the mountainside. As the warm sunlight pours over him without obstruction, he feels as if he's been injected with endless energy. All his fatigue and depression instantly vanish, and his whole being is revitalized. For him, this brief sunbathe is far more healing for the past 10+ days of suffering than a full meal would be. This is the best way for him to relieve his mental strain and, moreover, an important part of his process of making peace with the wilderness. At this point, all the contestants have been introduced. Some are relying on skill to get by. Some are hoarding food by sheer luck. And some are using willpower to fight against setbacks. And then there are those who are breaking through with pure hardcore skills. Who will be this season's dark horse? Let's wait and see.